And so the courier who had cheated death in the cemetery outside Good Springs cheated death once again, and the Mojave wasteland was forever changed. Caesar entered the Strip as though it was his triumph. The Legion pushed the NCR out of New Vegas entirely, driving them back to the Mojave outpost. The Legion occupied all major locations, enslaving much of the population and peacefully lording over the rest. Under the Legion's banner, civilization, unforgiving as it was, finally came to the Mojave wasteland. The Legion marched over the Hoover Dam with the help of one who was as brutal and merciless as the worst of them, the courier. Caesar honored him with a golden coin, minted in celebration of his contributions and distributed throughout the wasteland.
Though some super mutants in Nightkin continued to journey to the legendary Utopia, they found little trace of its existence. Some eventually found their way to Jacobstown, but many wandered off into the wastes, confused and disheartened.
Cautious after the Boomers' display of power at Hoover Dam, Caesar chose to leave the Boomers alone. The Boomers remained isolated, but have been seen flying over the Mojave Desert from time to time.
Buried beneath tons of rubble, the Mojave chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel was no more. Those few who were outside the Hidden Valley bunker when it was destroyed settled into new lives, or headed west to find a new chapter to join.
At odds with leadership over the Brotherhood's future, Veronica looked to the Mojave wasteland for an answer both she and they could live with. But the answer would never come, and the dangers of the world that had left the Brotherhood of Steel behind would eventually claim her life.
Their leaders destroyed by the courier, the fiends scattered throughout the wasteland. Without the organization of Motor Runner, Cook, Violet, and Driver Nephi, they were easy prey.
After the Legion's victory, Caesar, out of a strange respect for his old fellows, allowed the followers safe passage out of the wasteland. Reluctantly, the followers accepted the offer and abandoned Old Mormon Fort to the Legion.
Though Arcade's intentions were pure and his goals were noble, he ultimately succumbed to the harsh brutality of the Mojave, like so many before him.
The Legion, preoccupied with its acquisition of New Vegas, scarcely took notice of the town of Good Springs. Many locals moved on, fearful of Caesar's long shadow. Only the old and the stubborn remained.
Rose of Sharon Cassidy died as her caravan died. In an unmarked grave, another victim of the Mojave.
As reward for their loyal service, Caesar forcibly integrated the great Khans into the Legion. The sick and elderly were killed. The women sold as wives to ranking officers, and the tribe's identity was annihilated. Though many great Khans mourned the death of their tribe, many more were ultimately satisfied with their revenge against NCR.
With Jacobstown's leadership destroyed, the remaining super mutants and Nightkin of the West scattered across the wasteland. Jacobstown withered away, its death going unnoticed by the rest of the Mojave.
Lily's long life finally came to a close in the Mojave wasteland. As the life faded from her, her last thoughts were of her grandchildren.
Impressed with the King's continued attacks upon NCR citizens and soldiers, the Legion offered them the option of being assimilated into the Legion. The Kings refused and briefly became slaves in the Legion, but after a failed escape attempt, they were all put to death.
With the transplant of Lupus' brain, Rex gained all of the donor's experiences traveling with the Legion. These melded well with his own memories of the Legion, and his new mind quickly adjusted to the myriad memories.
The Misfits' laziness caught up with them when the Legion attacked Camp Golf. Those who weren't killed in the attack attempted to flee, but were caught at Mojave Outpost, court-martialed, and hanged from the Ranger Monument.
Though Novak was a low-priority target for the Legion, many of Novak's citizens died in its defense. With no other communities coming to its defense, Novak would eventually fall to the Legion's persistent attacks.
After Hoover Dam, the leaderless powder gangers at the correctional facility vanished into the wastes, leaving the prison empty. The correctional facility became another abandoned ruin in the wasteland, its carcass occasionally picked over by enterprising prospectors.
With Cook dead, the powder gangers at Vault 19 fell apart. Those who weren't destroyed by the courier fled into the hills or attempted to work their way back through the Mojave wasteland. Few survived.
Though Caesar keeps Prim open for business, its citizens live under the constant watch of Legion soldiers.
After the death of Chief Hanlon, the power of NCR's Rangers was broken for years. Their organization, so reliant on the wisdom and guidance of its elder members, became a shadow of what it once was to people across the wasteland.
Merciless in their assault on the NCR, the remnants struck fear into the hearts of even the Centurions at Hoover Dam. Well aware of the full extent of their power, Caesar commanded his troops to not pursue them.
And so the Courier's road came to an end, for now. In the new world of the Mojave wasteland, fighting continued, blood was spilled, and many lived and died just as they had in the old world. Because war never changes.